Good afternoon, everybody. It's Thursday, April 3rd, 2025, and I have all your stories for your rush hour ride home. And on today's episode, we have a lot to get into. TikTok may be sold soon, or it's going away. I'll share the updates from that. And Kanye has a new song. I don't like to share much Kanye content, but it's absolutely ridiculous as he pleads for his Bianca to come back in his tune. Also, an Illinois teacher caught on body camera footage the moment she was arrested with her husband, as it's alleged she had, I can't even say what happened in the intro because YouTube will take it down, but stick around for this crazy story. And then Bachelorette Kaitlyn Bristowe spills the tea. We knew it would come. It took a few years. The tea on her breakup from Jason Tartick, why she dumped him, the thing that crossed her afterwards that's making her so upset. We'll share that. And then Blake Lively loses millions of Instagram followers. The stats have come out. It is not a good thing to see your follower count head in that direction. I'll share that plus another Blake Lively story, so stick around. And then tariff talk, the unbelievable day, the sort of real red day for the stock market as the whole world conspires to figure out how to live without us, because the tariffs that have been proposed are insane levels. I'll share what economists are saying and how the market has reacted with an absolute sell-off of epic proportions. All these stories and more, it's all happening right now on The Rush. So we're going to get into that Blake Lively story because I do think it's fascinating when people hemorrhage their social media followers, which is really all you have as a brand, right? It's your connection to your audience. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, here is Kanye West mentioning that Bianca left him in a new song. It's very bizarre. I'm going to play like 5 seconds of it. Have a listen.
I just want you to come back to me.
This is, by the way, this sounds like the type of thing, you would do in junior high when you got dumped. You would, I just want you to come back to me. Please, oh please don't leave me for my buddy.
What I did to make you mad.
I'm so sorry that you don't want me back. Like, I can't even tell what's the real one and fake one. And by the way, if this isn't AI, as far as I'm concerned, this is Kanye West, who, say what you want about him. He's always been known as like a prolific producer. And this is a track, I guess, begging for his lady back.
Bianca, I just want you to come back. Come back to me. Want you to come back to me. Want you to come back.
Yo, Bianca, please come back to me now. I need you back to me. I'll even let you put some clothes on. Whatever. I don't know. I'm not a rapper. I tried my best. All right, so let's get into it. TikTok may be sold. Who knows what the hell's going on? Here's Frank McCourt. He bid $20 billion on it. As we know, a couple months ago, it went away for like half a day, and then they came back saying, thanks to President Trump, we're back online. And it's like, does anyone believe this like dictatorial stuff that's going on where, he lets them come back, but they have to profess their love for him? And now they've kicked the deadline down the road. Will it be sold, or will it not just continue to exist? Have a listen.
They're not letting go of the algorithm. Mm-hmm. And what also seems to me crystal clear in the legislation is that any bid that includes the algorithm is not going to meet the criteria laid out in the law. So there's the issue.
What would you be willing to pay without the algorithm, without the so-called secret sauce?
Well, we've put a number of $20 billion on the assets without the algorithm, and so and we're sticking by that. We think that's a very full number for just the user base and the data.
And just imagine that our data is worth $20 billion. And we don't get a penny of that. Why don't they have laws that exist that keep these companies from mining our data? They don't care about the TikTok videos. They care about our consumer, psyche, the biometrics of our eyeballs, what we're looking at when ads are, and by the way, that's why Amazon would be a perfect fit to buy TikTok. I don't think it's good for us, but I'm sure they would love the idea.
The New York Times reported today that Amazon is is entering the race to acquire the U.S. assets of TikTok just days before this U.S. deadline for a sale or ban of the Chinese-owned company. Now, according to The Times, Amazon made its intentions clear in a letter to Vice President J.D. Vance and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. It's unclear how likely the company is to succeed here. Other reported prospective partners in a deal include Oracle, Blackstone, and existing shareholders Susquehanna International Group and General Atlantic.
Boy, it's really like just the who's who of Dr. Evil, Blackstone and Amazon. Oh, boy. You know an app's going to be in decline when Jeff Bezos starts doing dances on his yacht. You know, he's going to get his little Ring camera out, and he's going to be, get his Lauren Sanchez in there to show some cleavage, and they're going to be TikTok couples, because being a multi-billionaire is just not enough. All right, folks, I have 3 sad stories to share with you. I don't want to do this. I'm going to clump them all together. Let's just grit our teeth and get through it. Brett Gardner was a Yankees sort of like star player, right? His son died, and they just figured out why. They died on a family trip to Costa Rica. His son was 14 years old, son named Miller, tragically died from carbon monoxide poisoning. I mean, this is one of those, so ultra preventative, the freak style accident. I mean, what are you supposed to do when you travel? Do you travel with your own carbon monoxide, detector now? Either way, just a terrible, sad, tragic time for this family. Costa Rican officials confirmed the cause of death after toxicology results showed the teen had carboxyhemoglobin saturation of 64%, well above the 50% threshold that's considered lethal. So, as a Red Sox fan, I say our thoughts and prayers go out to the Gardner family. Really sad stuff. And equally sad, again, I'm just going to really try to get through these sad stories. An influencer named Nurse Haley died during a C-section. Her infant son survives. It's a tragic story. I mean, the fact that the son survived is just, a tiny, tiny sliver of good in an otherwise tragic story. And it was a heartbreaking post. Again, with this world of the Rush Hour podcast, we cover pop culture, but that means influencer culture and, what's going on in our world. And it's not always just rosy. And, to think that you're about to have a baby and then all of a sudden the tragedy of this man and his wife, this loving moment, turned into such a tragedy. She suffered amniotic embolism, a medical complication during childbirth where the fluid surrounding the baby in the womb enters the carrier's bloodstream, causing damage to multiple organs. Again, our thoughts and prayers to that family. And our final tragic, sad stories. An Illinois teacher, cops are alleging, had classroom sex with the student. Now, of course, we call that the R word. He was 15, but for whatever reason, when it's a female teacher, they seem to sort of sanitize it. And maybe it's for the same reason we have to. You can't really say the R word on YouTube without getting demonetized and all of that. But I guess innocent until proven guilty. But here she is, and she was accused of assaulting the 15-year-old student, and she tutored him, which again is quite sad considering that trusted position you're in as a teacher and a freshman coach. Here's the moment she gets pulled over with her husband sitting shotgun in the car where she realizes she's getting taken in by police. Have a watch.
Yeah, you can just grab whatever you need.
Whatever I need?
Yeah, whatever you need, like your phone, your purse, go ahead and grab it.
Is she going somewhere? Or?
Yeah, we're going to explain everything to you guys.
Excuse me, is my husband coming with?
Yes, he's taking his phone number down. We're staying in touch with him.
She said, is my husband coming with? And then she had the moment hysterically where she realized what is going on.
I feel like I'm going to throw up.
A bag?
Yes, please.
All right, so then the cop gets her a barf bag. And again, innocent until proven guilty, but my guess is they've got cell phone receipts. My guess is the student has admitted to it. And again, it's not the student's the victim here. He was 15 and she was 28 at the time, prosecutors allege. We'll continue to cover this story as it develops. But all right, let's move it on to something a little bit more, I don't know, I hope inspiring. Robert Irwin, right? We love Steve Irwin. God bless him, right? The pride of Australia. Well, his son has grown up to be quite a advocate for great animal causes, and all around the whole family, Bindi Irwin, they've really grown up with a good head on their shoulders. Well, now he is stripping down in a photo shoot, showing off, I'm calling his crock and balls. That's what I'm calling it. Robert Irwin's getting almost as naked as the animals he hangs out with, stripping to his down undies for an exclusive photo shoot with people. I'll be the first to tell you this. I love to I love to sort of platform and give my congratulations to people that seem to be doing it right. By the way, is that a tattoo of a spider on his shoulder or an actual spider? Who knows? Either way, seems like a good guy, continuing his father's legacy. His father, of course, died tragically of a stingray wound. I mean, just unbelievable wildness. All they do is animal advocacy, and they do good and try to share and use their platform to advocate for those without voices, the animals in our lives. And I think by educating people and all that. So good on him and good on that family for continuing to strive to live in their father's honor. I'm sure he would be absolutely so proud of his kids looking down. All right, let's take a quick break. We're going to come back with Blake Lively content next. As you guys know, for several months, we've been covering the Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Justin Baldoni story, and it's back and forth as they set the terms for the upcoming trial, March 2026. And a lot of people obviously are picking sides, and those that are surrounding themselves with Blake Lively are dealing with the collateral damage of what Blake may have done. That being the sort of theory that she faked a lot of allegations to sort of gain control of this film. Well, now Hugh Jackman is 100% on Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' side amid the Justin Baldoni legal fight. Again, this article, not exactly a bastion. It's intouchweekly.com. I don't know what kind of sources they vet or whatever, but they shared this article, which again goes to show, the talk between Taylor Swift and Ryan and all the side characters, Hugh Jackman. They say Taylor Swift getting caught up in the feud. It's likely the Prestige star 56 will have to be deposed before the trial to discuss what exactly Ryan was up to while Blake and Justin were filming It Ends With Us, which happens to be when he was hanging around with Hugh for Deadpool and Wolverine. If this actually goes all the way to court and Hugh is forced to take the stand, there's no question he will step up, the source says. At this point, Ryan is like a brother to him. He will have his back no matter what it takes. Now, this doesn't come without a cost. That cost being the hit to people that believe you're on the wrong side of this story. And very well, Hugh Jackman could be a great friend to Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds could be thinking that he's doing the right thing if he believes, Blake Lively. But with all of that into consideration, it doesn't change the fact that audiences can vote with their dollar or vote with their follow. So they say even though Hugh is well aware that Justin's legal team is threatening to depose him, he has no issue with it because there's nothing to hide. He's got no doubt about Ryan and Blake's conduct and is 100% on their side. And again, I don't think Hugh Jackman would know anything sinister if there were sinister things going on. Chances are they would tell all of their friends that they're on the right side of the story and their friends would believe it. So I don't think his sort of deposition, it would be credible. I don't think he would lie under oath. I just don't think he's going to have much to share. So this was posted on the Team Justin Baldoni subreddit, and it is the question of how many followers they have gained or lost since September of 2024. Now, this is a big deal. Now, they have gigantic followings, but Blake Lively, as shown here, has lost 1.7 million followers. I mean, think about how many people that is. That is just like hundreds of stadiums full of people, right? Or dozens. I mean, it's a lot of people. But it's only 3.79% of her total audience. I mean, she still has 44 million people. So it just goes to show, if you were to lose 3% of your audience, would it really make a big difference in your following? Well, no, maybe not right now. But imagine if by the time this thing goes to trial, it gets more publicity. That 1.7 million might turn into 5 million. And sometimes even worse. Sometimes, as we've seen in The Bachelor, the more people start to unfollow, the more people unfollow, and then they kind of create this sort of avalanche, a real runaway train of destruction, which could be terrible for you. So again, this is since October when these rumors started to come out. So she's lost 3.8%, 1.7 million, whereas Baldoni has gained 9%. So he's leapt up 9% and gained over 250,000 new followers. Again, that's not to say that this hasn't hurt him. It's just that, just because people are following you doesn't mean any films are going to want to work with you moving forward, right? But it is a good sign versus Hugh Jackman has lost almost 1%. He's lost over 250,000 followers. Again, a tertiary party to this whole thing, versus Ryan Reynolds has lost 1.3 million, or 2.4% of his massive audience. So they've got a big audience. This isn't the dagger, that's going to sink them, but it is telling about public sentiment and where people are. This isn't a 50-50 split. This isn't, some want her, some want him. No, he's gained 9%, she's lost 3%. That is a big swing in public perception. Will that translate into the jury pool? We'll find out March of 2026 if they are idiotic enough to let this thing go to trial. But I don't see why it doesn't at this point. We've gone back and forth. I don't see why it doesn't go to trial. What does Justin have to lose? He's already lost it all. Unless they want to offer a pretty good apology and a good chunk of change, I don't see that. I don't see this thing stopping anytime soon. Well, breakups are messy, aren't they? But sometimes you don't hear about how messy they are right away. And that's kind of what played out with Kaitlyn Bristowe and Jason Tartick, right? They broke up, they did the joint speech, the whole thing, but then it got a little shifty. Here's Kaitlyn Bristowe sharing her side of what went down post-breakup that's making her now, several years later, spill the tea. Have a listen to Kaitlyn Bristowe on her own Off the Vine podcast with Kaitlyn Bristowe.
So that crossed my mind, and if we're really getting honest on this podcast, clearly I'm fired up. I had a shot of tequila before this, so if I'm being honest. I think it's mean and pathetic to rescue, not to rescue, bless you for rescuing. Oh, I'm such a believer in that. But to name your dog, am I going there?
It depends if you, is there any chance you'll use it?
No, not anymore.
Okay, then send it.
I'm making this clear that it's not that I'm not over him. I'm very much over him. I ended the relationship. I did not want to be in that. It felt icky to me. It felt like everything was for Instagram and numbers. I did not want to be in it. But to get a dog and name that dog my dream baby name that I've had in my baby names for 10 years, that in fact, I even have a text that says to him, huh?
You sent it to me.
I sent it to you. A text. I said the day I met him, I want to name my baby Teddy. Just to wrap that up, I know I seem very angry, but it's more like I don't like feeling disrespected. And I just have so many gross feelings from that because for so long I was made to feel crazy. And now I'm like, oh, I'm not crazy. I just saw what other people are seeing now. And it's just not aligned. What I want out of life is not what he wants, and that is what two people shouldn't be together like that. So I'm not fully angry. I'm just really grossed out and disappointed.
Yikes, grossed out and disappointed. Now, if what Kaitlyn Bristowe is alleging here is true, that she told Jason that she wanted to name her baby Teddy, then they have a relationship where they don't end up getting married and they don't have any babies. And now he names his dog Teddy. If that's true and he remembers that, that's insane. Now, you could take his side and say, well, maybe he didn't remember she said that and it was, he just a name and he didn't, maybe. But either way, and by the way, I love Kaitlyn Bristowe's glasses here. She's very Unabomber chic, right? She's going to blow the doors off of this relationship. And so, yeah, you're allowed to be over somebody and still have deep resentment. You're never truly over somebody. And so these things are going to keep unearthing where she realizes the pain she's feeling because she feels like maybe he didn't live up to their relationship and maybe she didn't either, And look, it's no secret here. We're a big fan of Kaitlyn Bristowe, not because she's perfect by any means. She'll tell you she's going to be honest. She's going to be sloppy. She's going to let the audience follow along on her journey. And for that reason, she has a considerable amount of haters, which I think is ridiculous. But when you're taking a strong stance and speaking your truth and doing all of those things, not everyone's going to align and vibe with it. But I respect her for calling it out. I don't think Jason will respond. His podcast is kind of buttoned up financial pop culture stuff. I don't see him responding to this. But it's pretty damning and wild. This is some tea that we did not expect to receive today. All right, speaking of tea, how about tariff tea? We've been talking about tariffs for months, and now we've got the results of yesterday's bombshell universal eruption of tariffs. Some countries are saying, hey, why'd you do that to us? We don't even make any goods that you buy. So I'll have those stories for you next. You know, gaslighting is a term that's so overused and misused, but I really do feel like right now we are being gaslighted by members of the administration who say, oh, these tariffs are a great thing. As we literally watch, I'm going to share several clips as people's stock market and their portfolios are going up in smoke as the stock market's taking a massive, massive nosedive today. So this was the futures. This was when the stock market was closed yesterday afternoon as Trump announced his tariffs. These stocks started plummeting. And here's the Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, sort of doing that whole like North Korean dictator thing where they're like, no, we think this was a great idea. Everything's going great. Is it though? Have a watch.
While certainly the economy will be adjusting, the negotiations will continue. We are really, really excited and very grateful to President Trump's leadership and being willing to be bold and fearless in facing some pretty big policy challenges around the world.
So what is the impact on farmers then?
Well, we'll see, right? I mean, we're negotiating. Now we move into some significant negotiations. I mean, I've got a great chart here.
Oh, they've got a chart. That's all we need. So this is what's troubling, right? You have essentially wealthy people. His cabinet's mainly billionaires, right? And they say, well, there'll be adjustments. Now, the stock market, they have been considering that the stock market was going to naturally adjust because it was pretty inflated. The last couple of years have done really well in the stock market. And I have members of my audience when their stocks were down early into Biden's presidency, they said, oh man, you know, Biden's really ruining the stock market. And then the last year it was up like 25%, some crazy number. So that's not going to exist forever. But at the same time, what has happened in the last 75 days has taken a rip-roaring economy and pretty much thrown the emergency brakes on it. And now people are saying, look, this is going to lead to trade halting. The last time these big tariffs were in place led to the Great Depression. Have a listen to this.
Be honest, if you put a tariff, you make everything coming in from abroad more expensive. That means people will buy less of it. They'll shrink their standard of living. If American companies take advantage of the tariff, which they always do, by raising their prices, that will also hurt the working class. On the one hand, we knew something like this was coming. On the other hand, the sweep and the scope of it does make you stop. Mr. Trump is right. It is a changing moment in American history and world history. But I think his representation of what's going on is completely fantastical and has only to do with the self-promotion that he is engaged in most of the time.
In the way that it was explained by Crystal Ball, who's one of my favorite commentators, is that Donald Trump did these global tariffs. Her idea is that he did it so that each country can grovel and come to him so that they can work out individual deals, and it makes him super important because obviously these tariffs are way higher. You know, the truth is a lot of countries' tariffs are like 1% to 2% tops, but Trump's saying, oh no, they're 70% when they're really not, because he's factoring in trade deficit, which has nothing to do with tariffs. It's almost like those that aren't really paying attention just hear their supreme leader go, oh, if they have 70% tariffs on us, we should have 70% tariffs on them, which just isn't true. It's not factual. It's not real information. Like this idea that Canada has these like 70% tariffs on dairy. The truth is they have tariffs if the supply and demand shifts past a certain level. So if they use tariffs as a way to sort of slow down the demand in order to kind of make sure that they have the right amount of supply going in and out. So there are selective tariffs that are used under certain circumstance, but the idea that, oh, these global tariffs need to exist on a blanket level is super dangerous. I mean, there's plenty of places that have tariffs that don't even do business with us. Here's a tiny Australian outpost getting steep Trump tariffs, even though they have no exports.
Good morning. Norfolk Island, interestingly, is I think 29%. I'm not sure what Norfolk Island major exports are to the United States and why it's been singled out, but it has. Good morning.
Now, of course, they weren't singled out. Every place. I mean, they slapped tariffs on penguins, right? And a lot of people don't believe these tariffs are going to last long. But what if they do? What if they do? And what if this leads us into a depression, or what if this leads us into a time? And I'm not here to be, to fear monger. This is happening. The stock market's happening. But what if the rest of the world comes together and decides, well, we're not going to use the U.S. dollar anymore, and then the dollar doesn't have the value it used to, and then we all lose. So inflation goes up because they have to print more money, and we get into this runaway train where people, this sort of like first world, rich country, powerful country that we had, all corporations will jump ship somewhere else because it's a global market. So we live in a world where a lot can happen, and other countries don't need us in the way that they might have in the past. So we're going to have to see what this means for corporations. I don't think many corporations will be loyal to staying in the U.S. if they can do business somewhere else. So the idea of tariffs bringing business back here, I think works when you do them selectively. I don't think it works when you do it to this level where all the other countries can come together. The European Union nations can all come together. The Asian nations, they can all come together. Canada and Mexico can come together, and they can realize that they're worth a lot more together than they are fighting us individually. That is not what you want when it comes to trade. Here is a CEO reacting live to his stock market tanking. Again, this is just wild stuff. And by the way, people will, like, when the markets turn, you hear stories of some finance guy jumping off the roof. You hear stories of people in despair where they were barely holding on, and then maybe they realize their student loans will never get paid off, and they say, you know what, I'm going to end it. Like, these stories happen. My advice to anybody listening right now that might emotionally be, struggling is hang on. And when you don't feel like you've got any will to hang on anymore, hang on tighter and stick around, and all of this craziness will subside and we'll ride it out. But I hate that I have to even make that announcement to my community. Don't be one of the numbers. Don't be a statistic. It'll only get better. Let's have a listen to this CEO. And again, I'm not saying that to pity the CEO. Like, who cares, right? He'll be fine. But have a listen.
On the call, and apparently is notified in the middle of the call that his stock was down 25%. Yeah. Take a listen.
In this race, and where's our stock now? I mean, I guess the stock went down, based on some of the numbers we reported, and then it got killed because of oh, really? Oh, okay. I just looked at the screen. I hadn't looked at it. It got hit when I think the tariffs came out, and everybody can see in our 10K where we're sourcing from, so it's not a secret, and we're not trying to disguise it by putting everything in an Asia bucket. So you can kind of figure it out and do the math. I think the people really that I feel worse for right now is all the manufacturers in China, or, people who are invested there, move manufacturing, move their lives.
Well, to your initial point.
Yeah. I mean, now he does talk about something that is kind of ironic, and anyone who's in the furniture business knows that the worst thing you could possibly have is inventory.
So there he is, finds out his stocks are 25%, taking a 25% hit today. And some companies and some wealthy people can ride this out, and some people can't. A lot of people will close up shop. They'll have to change their business. They won't have the money that they had to go on vacation. And think of all of the trickle down in a negative way on how that affects people. You might not go out to the restaurants anymore. Maybe you don't go to the movies, or you get rid of your streaming service. Like, you buckle down. You get rid of all of those extra luxuries in a slow period. And then as everyone holds on to whatever money they have, it just, the economy goes to a grinding halt, all within the last several months. Now, Trump's going to argue, well, if you can ride it out long enough, it's going to be great for us and it's going to bring jobs back. Really? Because what we saw when he put tariffs on China is they just moved their manufacturing to Indonesia. So it doesn't mean these companies are just going to be rip-roaring and come back. I think there's other ways that you can incentivize companies to come back into the U.S., but I think you got to do it like surgically, one at a time, selective tariffs. That's the way every economist says it's done, not like this. And sadly, those billionaires like Trump, They don't realize the difference. They don't realize that a 5%, 10% increase in grocery prices means some mother's going to have to decide between the formula she can't afford and what she can do to keep her family surviving. And maybe she's not eating a certain meal. Maybe she's not feeding herself or one of her kids because they don't have enough to go around. These people, a large part of our country was already on the fritz, living paycheck to paycheck, can't afford a $400 emergency payment. And then this happens, an absolute gut punch. What we need to be doing, and make no mistake, it's so obvious, what we need to be doing is taxing the ultra rich at a higher level and giving those extra benefits back to the working class so you don't need 3 jobs to survive. Everybody in this country should be able to survive, have a decent place to live on a 40-hour-a-week work. That's whatever that minimum has to be to get to that level. That's where we should be. But people are working overtime, second jobs, driving Uber Eats, Postmates, just so that their kid can afford, the boosted insurance or interest rates on their college student loans. I mean, people are on the fritz, and this is going to only make it worse. And my heart goes out to them. It really does. And we will be here to continue to share updates on what this all means. And if he decides to get rid of the tariffs tomorrow and it was all some leverage, it's like, bro, don't use my fucking country as leverage in whatever game of chicken you're playing. Not my people. Because we're not pawns in the game. We're real humans trying our best to get by. And there's a lot of hardworking, good people out there. American citizens, non-citizens, asylum seekers, immigrants, people fleeing war-torn areas. If anyone out there thinks that they've done something right to get ahead of the curve, that's all luck, privilege, and being born in the right skin, the right color, the right location. It could be any one of us that's on the fritz, and a lot of people are. So he's worried about the agriculture, the manufacturing jobs in China because they have investors in Asia. Sure. How about the farmers here who lost their contracts? They built new barns because they were supposed to get this infrastructure plan that was gutted. How about all of the different pieces of the fabric of workers here in our country that were promised a loan or were told that something would be, they would get a tax write-off if they did this or X, Y, and Z, and that was all taken away. People already just getting by. The subsidies, the biggest social program in our country is to agriculture. What happens when we take that away and farms close? It's all about bringing jobs back to our country. What if we can't even get the food we need for our country? So I hope more people speak up against this, because if enough people, Republicans, Democrats, independents, if people come together and say, this ain't the way to do it, he'll listen. You can change this. It's in our control. The Republicans just voted to get rid of the tariffs with the retaliatory tariffs with Canada. That's right. The Republicans finally crossed the aisle and did the right thing and said, we don't need these tariffs with Canada. That is a huge step. Are they going to do that? Are they going to speak up and stop the fucking madness that's happening right now? We'll have to see. I'll be here to cover it. We'll be back in the morning. I'm Dave Neal. This is The Rush.